Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of TBR. I'm your host, George Binns, and we have with us this evening our State Representative, Hannah Bowen. Welcome, State Representative Bowen.
Thanks, George. Good to be here.
As you mentioned, now you're down to one hat because
Yep.
you finally gave up the city council.
Yes. Yeah, I served through the election, and now the top vote getter who wasn't already seated has been sworn in and will be up in the next meeting.
So they're up and running, full house.
They are.
Yep. Good. So now that you're concentrating downtown, what's going on downtown?
There's plenty. So one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I know we have many topics we can go through, but time sensitive this week is just how the state has been responding to the federal government shutdown and what impacts that's having. And now that the government is reopening, the federal government is reopening, where are we and sort of where has it left us? So we definitely have seen the impacts locally. We've been getting unemployment claims from federal workers who were furloughed, and even with the promise of potentially getting paid when they get back to work, people living paycheck to paycheck needed some of that assistance in the meantime. And there is a mechanism for that, even if they're eventually going back to work, but just to have some cash flow in the meantime. We saw a lot of people impacted by the SNAP cuts and had a great meeting of community partners who are responding, sort of getting ahead of that and being ready even before people, woke up the morning their benefits were supposed to be on their electronic benefits transfer card and weren't. And I think even though federal workers who live around here and folks who access SNAP or other benefits programs now are or will be sort of getting back to what they're used to, the impact of a couple of months of uncertainty is huge. And so, we're trying to get the word out that if you have SNAP benefits on your card, you can spend them. They're not going away. They're not getting clawed back. But for a lot of people, when you're already trying to just navigate day to day with a lot of constraints, any new level of uncertainty is tough. So the state has done a lot to try and kind of fill in gaps temporarily, but was sort of, trying to be thoughtful about not overreacting and overcommitting resources that we're going to need for the future. So the other big conversation happening over the last few weeks at the federal level is about healthcare subsidies. And that filters down to folks who are on mass health, who are on, the exchange programs, like what they have access to if they're not qualifying for free care, essentially under mass health or Medicare or others. If they're on a plan that they're paying for and had been getting subsidies, there's going to be a huge gap, and we want to make sure that people in Massachusetts facing that big increase in costs don't lose their medical care. So it's a question of how that plays out. Do more people qualify for other types of programs as a result? Do we try and fill in some of that? And it's just the numbers are staggering, and our healthcare system is already under a lot of strain. So our health system can't afford for people without insurance to be showing up unable to pay, because we collectively have to cover those costs one way or the other. So it's been a little messy, and the governor is working really hard. All the state agencies are working hard and communicating through legislators about how we can help constituents navigate all of this. And I think we're now slightly back on steady ground, but the impacts have already hit here and will have these lasting effects even as people start seeing money in their accounts again.
So there's a transition that they have to go through, and people were making some adjustments, expecting no SNAP or no other resources.
Or no paycheck.
That has probably cost them money already. And the fact that they get SNAP back doesn't solve that problem. So they still have that problem lingering in the background. And like you say, the Medicare system and the Medicaid system are extremely tight, and you get into a situation where if you don't have the coverage, you can't go to the doctors. Well, now you got your coverage back, but the doctor has canceled that appointment.
And now you're 6
now
months out to get a next appointment.
Yeah, and so you're way out. And so there's still a lot of trauma that people are going to have to work through.
Yeah, and the stress of it, I think people underestimate what a drain that is. You know, if you're showing up to work, but in the back of your mind, you're worried about getting to the grocery store after work, like you're not as effective during the day. It takes a toll on people. So I think just also trying to make sure that we're not adding any more stress to people's lives, and anywhere that as a state government or as a community, we can like try and relieve some of that stress, reassure people that even if we're not sure exactly what the next 6 months are going to look like, that we're going to look out for each other. Hopefully that gives people a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah. So it looks like SNAP is back, but it still looks like there's going to be a free-for-all over the medical subsidies, whether they're going to happen or not.
Yeah.
So it's not over yet.
Yeah. Yep.
And what else is going on downtown, or is
Yeah, well, one of the things I know we've talked a bit about over the years around kind of our energy grid and electrification and decarbonization and how it all ties into our climate goals and our economic competitiveness. There is a bill floating around right now that just came out of committee with a set of rewrites. So the governor had filed a bill to try and promote affordability in the energy sector. So try and bring down people's electric bills, heating bills, because we know that's been a real pain point for people. We know it may be harder to get fuel assistance this winter, and just, you know, there are a lot of factors that influence the high costs of energy. And so the governor put in a bill earlier this year to try and pull as many levers as possible to provide some relief. And then the Joint Committee on Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy. I always get the TUE. I can get the acronyms, but not all the words every time. They had a hearing on the bill, have been working on the bill, and the House side of the committee just released a rewrite that makes some pretty big changes. And so we're all now trying to figure out what's in there, what's most valuable, what could be challenging in different ways, either because it doesn't do as much for affordability or it comes at the expense of some of our climate progress. But it's all kind of in response to these bigger trends. So one of the big challenges that this bill is trying to, I think, acknowledge and work with is that there, again, on the federal side and sort of how it filters down, there have been policies enacted over the last year that cut off some of the pipeline of renewable energy sources we have been building, or put barriers up, make it more expensive.
Yeah, they're cutting out the subsidies on electric cars, and
and solar
they've shut down
installation.
the plans on the windmills.
Yeah, and so the port in Salem that has been designed to support the building of offshore wind as both a key economic driver for the North Shore, for us, and for the renewable energy it creates, is now on hold indefinitely. And so the goals that we've set as a state include a roadmap of bringing all those renewable energy sources online. And now we have some new barriers in the way of meeting those goals and following that plan we had. So there's a debate now about what that means. And, we're hearing this proposal rolls back those goals. And some folks on the committee have shared out kind of a rationale for language that would just sort of give us a way, if we don't meet the goals, to not be liable for having tried our hardest and hit barriers set up by the federal government or a lack of partnership there. So not so much changing the goals or rolling back the goals, but just changing who has liability for missing them if we do. But these are goals for energy transformation and decarbonization by 2030. So we have 5 years still. And I think, from what I've heard from our clean energy advocates here in Beverly, sustainability folks, really continuing to provide some certainty to the industry, to builders, to the transportation sector, that these are our goals and we intend to keep investing as much as we can to meet them is really, really important. So I think whatever comes out of this particular bill, keeping that commitment that we're not following the federal government's move to abandon climate goals. We're keeping our climate goals in place. So I think that's something I'm looking at this week and trying to figure out what it's going to look like.
One of the ingredients you get caught up in this game is that the state needs more housing that is affordable. And there's two parts to this problem that get wrapped into the green deals. And one is that as these bills get pushed through the system to add more and more requirements, the cost of the housing goes up because now the contractor's got to do this and he's got to do that. And one of the ones that's going through right now is any new development cannot have a fossil fuel connection. It's got to be all electric. Well, that's well and good, but everybody wants more electricity. And it's hard to come by with solar cells and windmills being desubsidized, let's put it that way.
Yep.
So, and then of course with Bill Gates changing his mind on the catastrophe that climate is going to cause, just adds a little more confusion to the game. But still.
But I think, there are global leaders meeting this week as well. So it's interesting that we're talking about the state's global goals at the same time that the global climate conference is happening in Brazil. And, I think the evidence is having set ambitious goals has made a big difference in fostering industries, renewable industries, and in actually achieving not our full goals by any stretch of the imagination, but real progress. And it would be a shame to roll that back. But you're right. I think the need for a whole mix of energy sources so that we can keep electrifying is important. And one of the things that this bill would enable as well is helping that transition. So allowing and encouraging gas companies to also start providing heating and cooling with geothermal loop systems that the company could own and sort of service the way that they currently have gas lines running through our streets to serve homes. And that's something that's being tested out in a few communities. And this bill has brought together a lot of different pieces of legislation that could help tackle energy affordability by just enabling a lot of different things to all happen at once. And that's one of them. And I think those kind of ideas are needed. And some of the energy suppliers are interested, and energy distribution companies are interested in doing that because they see too that in the long run, that's going to pay off. And I think this is the challenge that we have at a time when individual budgets and municipal budgets and state budgets are tightening, and in some cases already have been really, really tight. It's hard to make space for the investments we need in bigger projects, even though they will pay off over time. So it's like how we get the timing right on some of these things.
Yeah, that gets to be the issue of how much of the future do you want to mortgage for meeting some goals? And I think
but also some of the things that might appear cheaper up front or be cheaper up front will cost us a lot more in the long run. And one of the things that I need to look into more that's a little worrying to me is while there's great language about factoring in like feasibility and affordability into policy changes, so to your point, like not putting in place regulations that make things prohibitively expensive, there's good language on that, but there's also language about not factoring in the social cost of greenhouse gas emissions, which we have started doing to factor in, the health costs and the coastal resilience costs and things that are very real and that don't necessarily hit only the person who's making the decision about what to build. They hit all of us, and we have started factoring in those costs when we talk about cost effectiveness and affordability. And there's some language about stopping, that factoring in. So how we do that, I think, is, it's a challenge for economists and for planners. But I think we have to factor in some of that because otherwise we are all paying really important health costs, quality of life costs. We increase our risks of flooding, of everything else. So, we need to consider that when we're making decisions.
Well, the other part of the reality is the world in general did not meet the IPCC goals this year that were supposed to happen by 2025.
Yep.
And
we're a lot further than we would have been without.
Oh, we are further, but
goals, right? So.
We still haven't met the goals. And one of the concerns I have is that we've got these environmental issues where people are concerned about flooding, storms, and everything else. These things are going to continue to happen and not necessarily go away because we get the carbon dioxide emissions level down.
Right.
So we still have to work on those problems and solve them independent of...
Either way, I know. And it's hard to, like, the progress that we've made has prevented things from being even worse than they are.
Yeah.
And if we keep on with that commitment, we'll never see the worst possible effects, but we will still see some of the effects. And so you're right, it's tough because we have to put in all of this work and investment and change behaviors to try and rein in some of the climate damage we're doing. But there is still climate damage. So the fact that we put in all this effort and then what we see is still not ideal. Yeah. It's much better than it would be, and it's worth doing, but it's hard when what you see is still there is still
so a lot of these ideas they are good ideas in the right context, and we in the city stumbled into that one with the library that they wanted to put in a ground source heat pump. They're great and they work, and I think what surprised me is when one of the contractors said, well, the soil conditions are not ideal, whatever that means. Yeah. But at the same time, you get into the game of, okay, you got to drill some extra holes. And how much is it going to cost to drill extra holes? Yep. And Senator Lovely's got a new house where she put in a ground source heat pump, and she's raving about the cost savings on the heating and cooling.
Yeah, and in new construction, it can be easier to make those calculations work and to make sure that the building is already pretty energy efficient. It's not losing heat, things like that.
Yeah.
Which it was one of the challenges with the library is the building itself was not like super efficient. Yeah,
it leaks heat like a sieve. Yeah. And at the same time, she mentioned, well, it was a 900-foot hole we drilled. Oh. And the other point she made was that it was a brand new house, so the cost of that could be rolled into the mortgage.
Yep.
So it can be handled financially reasonably comfortably, as opposed to the situation with the library that it's all of a sudden special add-on.
Right.
Yeah. And we went through this with the program for the middle school. We wanted to put a heat pump in, and we got the answer back, it won't work.
Yeah, it's too wet
not the right kind of soil.
Yeah.
And We did put one in for the police station,
Yep.
but it's 38 holes in the ground.
Yep.
And there are many more details on it. So, I mean, it's hard to judge it.
Yeah, and
without
you
all-
have to take each site
Each site is unique.
differently, and
it-
yeah.
So part of the problem comes down to one of, there's no universal solution that works everywhere.
Right.
Everything has to be tailored to the situation. And it just takes a lot more effort. I think
Yeah.
a lot of things get glossed over that way.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's going around is the governor is strongly advocating for more data centers. Seems to be the rave these days, and it's good to do. And they suck up a lot of electricity and a lot of water.
Yeah.
And we're struggling year after year with a drought condition. I don't know what's that going to do to their bright idea. And trying to build another power plant around is a challenge. Peabody went through a couple of years just trying to put in a peaking plant to pick up the slack when things are slow.
Yep.
And there just gets to be an awful lot of time consumed working these things out.
Yeah, and I think that's where getting that balance right of regulation that makes it easy to choose what's right for the site, choose what's right for the economic activity in an area, and move through the process smoothly, and not get hung up. Like, yes, you want to evaluate each proposal on its own merits and have a clear process for, okay, if it's this type of power plant, it's going this way. If it's this type of new construction, it's going to meet these conditions, and sort of have enough standardization and like smooth processing that you're not adding costs in the process or adding time to the process of redeveloping space or moving in that direction of electrification, and enough customization that you're not trying to fit everything into the same box.
Yeah, you got to have the flexibility to adjust to the situation.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a challenge to meet all these
Yeah.
requirements at the same time. So,
Yeah.
and I keep going back to the fundamental problems. We need better housing, low-cost,
Yeah.
affordable housing.
Yep.
And
Yeah, and actually at the intersection of housing and climate, I was at a great event on Monday, where the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities was announcing its Climate Ready Housing Grant Program awards for this year. And Harbor Light Homes received one of the grants to do a pretty significant renovation of the Turtle Woods building up on Essex Street. So it's affordable senior housing. The building's 30, 40 years old, ready for, its gas boilers to be replaced. And so they're moving to a more climate-friendly building, and it will lead to much less fossil fuel use. There will still be some on site.
it just lowers their operating costs.
It does, and it's also part of the work is going to improve, add an elevator for more access, improve the windows and building envelope, both for energy efficiency but also for comfort. And so, it'll be a pretty significant renovation, the sort of thing that is hard to finance on an existing building, but those state funds were made available specifically for preserving affordable housing as affordable housing. So it'll extend the life of that affordability restriction and make the building work better for residents.
Yeah,
so that's kind of a win-win.
Exactly.
And keeps it's not putting up new units. That building is already there. There are people living there. It has remained affordable, and now it will remain affordable and lower costs in the long term.
It comes down to the point if you can't replace everything. I mean, it's just too much structure that's already in existence, and we're having enough trouble getting new stuff built to go back and tear down all the old stuff and replace that.
Yeah.
That's somebody smoking something and they're not sharing it with
Yeah.
us.
Well, and if we were to try and build something new, then is it going to be affordable? Or
Yeah,
if you're
what's
if you're
a-
just relying on private investors who need a return, can you do these kind of climate upgrades and keep something affordable? It's hard,
Yeah.
and so using some public money to just close that gap is helpful.
Yeah, and you get into the situation that you want to build housing that is affordable below market rate. Now you're getting into Section 8, and most contractors and builders it's a little reluctant to get into that because the returns on investment aren't there. And it's hard to get some of these programs going. And as a result, like you said, we got to preserve and refurbish
Yeah.
the stuff we've got because it's got to last.
Yep.
It's not going to get replaced.
Yeah.
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 So what else is going on downtown? Anything?
Well, this week we also were honoring veterans for Veterans Day here in Beverly and Wenham. There was a ceremony up at the State House as well. And, just really thinking about what are the barriers that are still in the way of local veterans accessing quality health care, having stable housing. So I've been talking to our veteran service agent about some ideas that they have here in the city, and whether there are state partnerships that can help with that, and kind of tracking what legislation is out there to make sure that everyone has full access to their benefits. So when we have these, whether it's a holiday or it's a kind of moment of reflection, it's a good time for me to think about, okay, what is it that is already on the books at the state level? What programs are in place? Do people know about them? How can I help connect those dots? So this week, that's one of the things I was really thinking about and tracking and trying to think about, over the next year, what does that look like to make sure people are connected.
One of
to
the
what they
things you
need.
can add to your list of things that veterans can do is they can get a loan with no money down for a house. And so there's good positive stuff around.
Yeah.
And a lot more things to talk about, so we will have to get together again. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And as I mentioned, if you got some comments, my email address is in the credits. Send me your note. And if you got a longer comment, there's room for you here at the table. And thanks again for watching us, and stay tuned.